So Von Miller's quest to get a third Super Bowl with a third different team is all the way underway. He signs a 6-year, $120 million deal with Buffalo. And there's two things to talk about with this. One is the fit. I'll get to that in a second. But first, I want to talk about just Miller as a whole. How good is he? Because quite frankly, watching the tape, he can clearly still play. So let's start off with a play like this. Let's talk about the Super Bowl, which, hey, the one thing you know you get with Von Miller is if you go to the Super Bowl, he's probably going to show up. Obviously, Super Bowl MVP and Super Bowl 50 with the Broncos, and played very well with the Rams against Cincinnati. And you're going to see that on this play, where the way it works is there's 5 one-on-one blocks here for Cincinnati because there's 5 guys who are going to rush the passer for the Rams, so therefore 5 offensive linemen. There is a tight end and a halfback in the game who are showing as though it could be blocking. The tight end is going to be blocking, but he's going towards Aaron Donald, which means that everyone else has the one-on-one matchup. P. Ryan, the halfback, is just going to run around. Well, actually, he's going to chip a little bit, but then run about. It's irrelevant to the point because Von Miller is not playing on the edge right here. That is where Miller is. Going up one-on-one against Hakeem Adeniji, the guard who had the unfortunate task of sort of being the I guess scapegoat to some degree. Didn't have a great Super Bowl, probably the best way to put it. But again, kind of it was just one of those situations where he was the weak link of a not great offensive line. Anyways, back to Von Miller. This is kind of what Miller does so well, is there's so many different things he can do. He's versatile. You don't have to just stick him on the edge and have him run 2 or 3 pass rush moves. He can really do it all. Watch how right when this play begins, you're going to see that what Miller is going to try and do is pull off a spin move, which is just so difficult to pull off, especially from an interior defensive lineman position, because you have less space than you do on the outside typically. But watch him pull off this move, and with help from some other pressure, he is going to be able to get to Burrow. He got credit for that sack. So just a great play by Von Miller, and this is what Miller can do for you. You can put him in several different ways, and he can come through. You also have something like this, which is, I think, just a great example of showing off Miller's athleticism, I think is what this does, because a couple things to note. So first off, the center is going to be blocking to the offense's left, which is towards the right side of the screen. So basically, for the 2 defensive linemen who are towards our left of the center, there are 2 offensive linemen and 2 defensive linemen. But what the Rams are going to do is what you call a stunt, where they have their defensive tackle kind of run in between the right guard and right tackle. Hopefully you get both of their attention, and then Miller can kind of run in between the guard and center and hopefully have a straight shot to Burrow. Look at how right when this play begins, what you're going to see is that it's working out beautifully. Miller gets through. This was well executed by everyone involved here by the Rams, and now Miller has a straight shot to Burrow. So to some degree, this was schemed up well, and you could argue, okay, well, how much of this was talent? How much of this was just a good scheme? Well, you could argue that, but then you got to talk about the second part of this, because how many times have we seen Burrow be, under fire, but still find a way to get outside the pocket and make something happen? More difficult to do that when it's Von Miller who's chasing you down. As you see, watch how Miller is going to be able to chase down Burrow and get that big sack right there. So that's just what Miller can do, is you can use him in several different ways. He has a great skill set that can be used in several different ways. And hey, he's got great closing speed with all of these great athletic quarterbacks that are coming up more and more in the NFL. Well, he does a good job of being able to track them down and not let them get outside the pocket when he's in a situation like that. I wanted to go over here now. I wanted to show some plays when he was with the Broncos this season as well, because it was interesting, where I think a lot of people felt like, okay, well, he got traded. He's, a veteran player. He probably, kind of has lost a step. And a lot of times this does happen where a team will say, you're not great anymore. Let's just get rid of you. That wasn't this situation. Miller was a talented player. And the reason why the Rams had to give up a decent amount for him is because Miller is still good. And he was still good with the Broncos. He wasn't playing bad then either. And what you see on this play is, so in the box right there, you have a tight end and Von Miller. That's what I'm highlighting right here, because the tight end is going to be chipping Miller, which means he blocks him for a second, but then goes out and runs a route. And look at how right when this play begins. So, okay, pulls off the chip, nicely done. But now there's another interesting thing happening. So his defensive tackle, you kind of see how if Miller just runs to the right tackle, well, you're just going to get blocked right there. And maybe you can try to overpower him. That's something that Miller has the capability of doing. But Miller also kind of says, hey, this is pretty similar to that last play, right? It's kind of like a stunt. It wasn't designed this way, but you can still make it work that way. And so watch how that's just exactly what he does. And he reads that play well and just finds a hole and hits Trevor Lawrence. Just kind of a smart play by Von Miller. And that's just one of the things you love about Miller, is he's just a high IQ football player who can just read those situations very well and has a great feel for the game. And he's been doing this his entire career. He brings definitely a level of intelligence that not a lot of other guys bring to a team. And also stuff like this. Listen, when it comes to edge rushers, people always love to talk about the pass rush aspect. But, as I've talked about on this channel, I think run defense is maybe just as important. In fact, maybe even more important, I think, in certain aspects. And Miller's a great run defender. And that really, again, that was a big reason why the Rams won the Super Bowl, was because it was tough to run on them. And one of those reasons, a lot of reasons, maybe the biggest being number 99 in the middle with the, Aaron Donald, of course. But Miller certainly helped with that. You see how on this play, it's a left tackle who's going to be one-on-one blocking him. And typically on these types of plays, if you get beat to the outside, so further towards the left of the screen, that's okay. Like, look at how right when this happens, he kind of is all right with losing in that direction a little bit because, historically, you just think about it. James Robinson can now run up the middle, and Miller has almost taken himself out of the play. The issue is Miller just won so quickly that didn't really happen. Watch how Miller was able to just then run over, and he gets the tackle on James Robinson. So really just a great play by Von Miller, and he's able to do those kind of things pretty consistently. He's really good in the run game, really good in the pass rush game. He's just a really good player, and even at his age, he's still producing at a high level. So yeah, that's kind of my final verdict on all of this, is Von Miller is good. It's not really that much of a hot take, but I do feel like Von Miller still has it. And some people are saying, oh, he looked kind of washed when he was with Denver. No, he didn't. He was still legit with the Denver Broncos. People just kind of say that because he was a veteran who got traded. Typically, that only happens when you're washed, but he was good. Like, it took significant draft capital for the Rams to go out and get him. So that's why I don't buy into that narrative whatsoever. As for the fit, honestly, this is perfect for the Bills. They have Gregory Rousseau, who looked good as a rookie, so you put Von Miller, on the other side of him, and this is kind of their biggest area of need, I would say, was pass rush last year. Their defense was still pretty good, but, it was actually still really good, but they still could have used another pass rusher, so now they're getting that extra pass rusher, and the Bills are already such a complete team that kind of filling in the one area of need with a just dominant pass rusher, a future Hall of Famer, a two-time Super Bowl champion, that's pretty awesome for them. Now, again, you could argue the contract is a bit steep, right? $20 million a year, but listen, pass rushers get money, and maybe it's a little bit long. You could argue, I think that's interesting, but again, we always have to wait for these details to come out of when can you potentially cut him if you want to. So how much of that is guaranteed? And quite frankly, this is what you do, right? When you have a championship contender, you go out and you get as much talent as possible. And that's what the Bills are doing with Von Miller. I did not see it coming. I did not see this whatsoever, but I love it. I think it's great. I think it's a perfect fit. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.